In a small town, there was a rescue canine named Ace. He was not just any dog, he had a striking appearance with a glossy black coat and deep brown eyes that seemed to hold secrets. Ace had been found wandering the streets, scared and alone, before he was taken in by a local animal shelter. The shelter workers were hopeful that he would soon find a loving home, but Ace's past remained a mystery. He had no history on record, which made it difficult for anyone to understand him. Despite his good looks and gentle nature, Ace had one puzzling problem: he would suddenly shut down without any warning. In the blink of an eye, he would freeze as if time had stopped for him. His body became rigid, his eyes glazed over, and he would not respond to any commands or even gentle coaxing. It was as if he were trapped in an invisible cage. This strange behavior baffled everyone who tried to help him. 3 trainers took on the challenge of bringing Ace out of his shell. With each approach, they hoped this time would be different. They invested countless hours trying to connect with him through training sessions filled with treats, toys, and praise. However, as soon as they seemed to make progress, Ace would abruptly shut down again. The trainers grew frustrated and confused. What could possibly trigger such a reaction? After multiple failed attempts and much head-scratching, all 3 trainers ultimately decided that they could not help him. Word of Ace's behavior spread through the community, leaving many wondering what happened to this beautiful dog that no one could understand. Some people speculated about past traumas that might have caused his strange reactions, others theorized that perhaps he never learned how to trust humans. But without any records or background stories to guide them, no one could pinpoint the reason for his sorrowful silence. Just when it seemed like the story of Ace might end with him being labeled untrainable and left in isolation at the shelter, an unexpected visitor appeared, a veteran named Jack. Jack was drawn to the shelter by a feeling he couldn't quite explain. He had seen things in his own life that left scars, memories that haunted him daily, but he didn't expect anyone else to understand this pain or share it with him. Jack arrived at the shelter each day without any intention of training Ace. Instead, he simply sat nearby in silence. At first, people were puzzled by his approach. They wondered why he would spend hours each day doing nothing but watching the dog who refused to interact with anyone else. But Jack didn't care about other people's opinions, all he cared about was being there for Ace. As days turned into weeks, Jack began talking softly about moments from his life, stories of laughter and joy mixed with sadness and loss. He shared details from his time in service that he had never revealed to anyone before, the friendships forged under fire and the painful memories of those who didn't come home. Each story hung in the air like delicate threads connecting them despite their differences. At first, Ace remained distant and unresponsive during these visits. But over time, Jack noticed minuscule changes, the way Ace's ears perked up slightly when Jack's voice broke through the quiet, or how his eyes sparkled just a little more brightly when Jack laughed at something funny from his past. Though Ace still froze at times without warning, there were moments when he would take tiny steps closer to Jack or allow himself to relax under the veteran's calm presence. On day 9 of their encounters, something shifted dramatically between them. As Jack spoke about a particularly painful memory involving loss, a friend who never returned, he looked over at Ace and realized something profound. Both of them carried wounds too deep for words but painfully real nonetheless. It struck him then that perhaps what Ace needed was not just companionship or training but rather understanding and acceptance of their shared pain. They both existed in different worlds yet felt similar emotional weight pressing down on their hearts. In that moment of clarity, Jack understood what the dog was waiting for: not training or commands but empathy, a recognition of their connectedness. Jack gently reached out towards Ace with open hands, allowing him to come forward on his own terms rather than forcing any response from him. There was a peace between them now, 2 souls healing quietly together in this imperfect bond where explanations weren't necessary. From then on, their visits transformed into healing sessions more than anything else, where words flowed naturally without fear or expectation, and what began as silence turned into understanding wrapped in compassion. As they continued this journey together through shared vulnerabilities rather than authoritative commands or expectations of performance, with each passing moment reinforcing their bond, they finally discovered not only hope for healing but also piece by piece joy returning into their lives once more. It became clear that sometimes connection is forged not through strict training methods but through presence, just simply being there for each other, and so began their beautiful journey toward recovery together. The struggle faced by Ace was not just his alone, it weighed heavily on the shoulders of 3 dedicated trainers who had ventured to help him. Each had different backgrounds and experiences, yet they all faced a similar challenge when it came to this enigmatic K9. Their collective journey began with hope, but it quickly spiraled into frustration and disappointment. The first trainer, Lisa, was known for her gentle touch and positive reinforcement methods. She had successfully trained many dogs in the past, and her heart was set on helping Ace overcome his mysterious behaviors. When she first approached him, she was filled with optimism, believing that her techniques could coax him out of his shell. However, despite her patience and persistence, Ace remained unresponsive. His sudden shutdowns left Lisa baffled, as he would freeze in place during training sessions, ignoring treats and praise. Each time he became unresponsive, it felt like a small defeat to her. After several weeks of trying various approaches, Lisa finally had to admit that she was at a loss. Next came Michael, a trainer renowned for his assertive methods and tough love approach. He believed that discipline could break through even the toughest barriers. When he started working with Ace, he adopted his usual strategy of setting clear boundaries and commands. But Ace's unexpected freezes baffled Michael. Each time he attempted to correct the dog or encourage him to obey commands, Ace would shut down completely, almost as if he were retreating into a safe haven where no one could reach him. Michael's frustration mounted as he tried harsher techniques that had worked wonders with other dogs. After weeks of little to no progress, Michael reluctantly decided to end his training sessions with Ace, feeling defeated. The third trainer was Sam, who had a special affinity for rescue animals and understood the trauma they often carried. Sam approached Ace with empathy and understanding, convinced that building a connection was the key to getting through to him. He spent hours every day trying to bond with Ace, using soft words and gentle gestures. Initially, there were glimmers of hope as Ace would allow Sam to pet him and occasionally make eye contact. Yet every time Sam would attempt to encourage him to engage in play or learn a new trick, Ace would again slip into that painful freeze. The emotions were overwhelming for Sam, it felt like they were failing each other. After many attempts that led nowhere, Sam reached the heartbreaking conclusion that it might be best for both of them if he stepped back. As word spread within the training community about Ace's challenges, an uncomfortable truth emerged: too many had tried and failed to unlock the mysteries of this dog. Each trainer held their own emotions tightly, grappling with feelings of inadequacy and disappointment. They shared their experiences over coffee or in brief meetings at the shelter, but the same frustrations echoed in each conversation: the inability to identify what triggered Ace's fear in silence. Throughout these discussions, speculation ran rampant among the trainers about Ace's past. They wondered if he had been abused or abandoned, perhaps something dramatic had occurred before he arrived at the shelter that left him scarred. Lisa speculated that he may have associated humans with pain due to an unknown experience. Michael thought maybe discipline had been poorly enforced in his past life, causing him to distrust authority figures like himself. Sam pondered whether it was possible that Ace simply never learned how to respond positively to humans at all. All three trainers were united in their concern for Ace but divided by their methods and philosophies toward training. As they spent time reflecting on their own approaches and trying to understand Ace's triggers, if only they could discover the key, it became clear that what they needed most was insight into his world. But without any background or history on Ace, they found themselves at an impasse. As disappointment settled in, each trainer chose to move on, believing there were better candidates out there, dogs ready for training who wouldn't require so much emotional energy and patience. They left the shelter feeling heavy-hearted but resolved that they had done their best given the circumstances. For Ace, this meant returning to solitude, his existence marked only by moments of quiet despair and unanswered questions. It was during this time of abandonment and uncertainty that Jack entered the scene. Unlike the trainers before him, Jack did not come equipped with plans or training materials. He came as someone who understood that sometimes presence is more powerful than commands and techniques. While the trainers had struggled against an invisible wall between them and Ace, Jack approached without expectation, a subtle shift in energy that would soon change everything. The trainers' struggles had paved the way for Jack's unique approach to build a genuine connection based on understanding rather than training. Though they had seemingly failed in their quests to help Ace, their experiences laid the groundwork for someone like Jack to try a different path, one where empathy could create a bridge over silence instead of a wall against it. The journey for both Ace and Jack was just beginning, shaped by the failures of those who had come before but destined for something profound and healing. Jack, a veteran with a weathered face and kind eyes, walked into the animal shelter with an air of quiet determination. He had seen and experienced things in his life that left scars, both visible and hidden. His time in the military shaped him into a man of resilience, but it also filled him with a deep sense of empathy for those who struggled, whether they were human or animal. The moment he heard about Ace's struggles, something tugged at his heart. He felt compelled to help this dog who seemed so lost. Unlike the trainers who had come before him, Jack didn't arrive with charts or training plans. He didn't carry treats or toys, nor did he have a set agenda for his visits. Instead, he approached each day with an open heart and mind, ready to simply be present for Ace. There was no pressure to perform, rather, it was an invitation for connection. Jack understood that sometimes the best way to heal was not through commands or discipline but by just being there. Every morning, Jack would arrive at the shelter, his hands tucked into his pockets as he walked through the doors. The comforting scent of hay and dog food greeted him, along with the gentle sounds of barking and soft whimpers from other animals waiting for their forever homes. But Jack's focus was solely on Ace. As he approached the canine's enclosure, he noticed the way Ace remained still, his glossy black coat reflecting the faint sunlight streaming through the windows. Jack would sit on a nearby bench or simply lean against the wall, allowing Ace to take in his presence without any expectation. He spoke softly about his life, sharing stories that ranged from lighthearted moments to painful memories he had kept locked away for years. He told Ace about his childhood, filled with laughter and adventure, and recounted tales of camaraderie from his service days, friends who had stood by him in tough times and those who had made sacrifices that weighed heavily on his heart. At first, Ace listened with cautious curiosity. Though he didn't respond verbally or move closer, Jack noticed small changes, the way Ace's ears perked up when he heard Jack's voice or how his breathing became steadier while listening intently. It was as if Ace could sense the sincerity in Jack's words even if he didn't show it outwardly. Jack wasn't discouraged by Ace's silence, instead, he took comfort in knowing that sometimes healing takes time. He relished these moments of connection without needing any acknowledgement from Ace. With each visit, Jack felt himself becoming more attuned to Ace's unspoken language, the subtle shifts in his posture and the flicker of hope behind those deep brown eyes. Days turned into weeks as Jack maintained this daily ritual. Unlike the trainers who felt frustrated by their lack of progress, Jack found solace in simply being there for Ace as a steady presence. The bond they were forming was built on trust and understanding rather than performance or achievement. On one particular afternoon, after sharing a story about a cherished friend who had once saved his life during combat, Jack noticed something new in Ace's demeanor. For the first time, Ace shifted slightly closer to Jack's side as if drawn by an invisible thread of connection. It was a small movement, a mere inch, but it packed a powerful emotional punch for Jack. He could feel something changing within both of them, perhaps they were beginning to understand one another on a deeper level. The calmness that enveloped their interactions created a safe space where neither felt pressured to speak more than necessary. Silence became comfortable between them. They shared moments filled with unspoken agreement, two souls navigating their way through pain without needing to dissect every feeling out loud. Jack often reflected on how different this approach was compared to traditional training methods he'd witnessed before. Here, there were no demands or expectations, only patience and kindness filled each moment together. He could see echoes of himself in Ace's struggles, a silent understanding binding them both together in their wounds. As time rolled on, Jack began to notice more signs of progress. Ace would occasionally wag his tail at Jack's voice or turn his head toward him with curiosity as stories unfolded like petals blooming slowly in springtime. While nothing dramatic transformed overnight, each small step felt monumental, a testament to their growing bond. One evening as dusk settled over the shelter, bathing everything in soft hues of orange and purple, Jack reflected on how far both he and Ace had come since that first day they met. The journey ahead still loomed large with uncertainty, however, they were now walking it together, not as trainer and trainee but as companions working through their shared pain. Jack realized that all those layers of hurt they carried could one day lead them toward healing not just for himself but also for Ace. Their daily visits were transforming into something much deeper than either had anticipated, friendship rooted in empathy and mutual understanding. As days turned into weeks and then into months, it became clear that this relationship held promise beyond what training methods could offer alone, an unexpected gift from two wounded souls finding solace together amid their struggles. As the days passed, Ace began to show the tiniest signs of opening up to Jack, and their bond deepened in a way that neither had expected. Each visit felt like a quiet revelation, two souls navigating their own wounds side by side without pressure or demands. Jack instinctively understood that Ace needed reassurance more than anything else, and he gracefully adapted his approach to create a space where Ace could feel safe and valued. Jack would sit near Ace's enclosure with calm confidence, often talking about mundane things, his morning coffee ritual, what he observed on his daily walks, or even the changing seasons outside. He spoke not as a trainer relaying commands but like an old friend sharing life's little moments. With every word Jack released into the air, it became clear that there were no expectations tied to them, he merely desired companionship in their shared silence. Gradually, Jack's persistence turned into something beautiful, a tapestry of trust woven with each story shared. He learned to be patient, knowing that sometimes it was more effective to allow a pause than to fill every silence with words. Whenever he would pause talking, Jack noticed how Ace would lean ever so slightly closer to him, drawn by an unexplainable yearning for connection. There was one specific day when Jack decided to bring an old flannel blanket from home, a piece of fabric laden with memories and warmth. He folded it over the bench and settled in for their usual time together. This small gesture signaled something profound, that Jack was invested in creating a comforting space for Ace. As he patted the blanket invitingly, Ace hesitated initially but then took several cautious steps forward. Each inch closer felt monumental as it marked an important milestone in their journey together. Where once Ace had only frozen at movement from trainers or visitors, he now bent his head low and sniffed the blanket before finally curling up next to it, a moment of trust sparkling like starlight against the shadow of his past. Jack's heart swelled with pride as he sat still, allowing Ace to explore this new space at his own pace. The mutual understanding between them was blossoming, it was as if they were learning how to communicate without needing words. With every passing day that followed, Ace's curiosity only grew stronger. During one visit after 3 full weeks of daily engagement, Ace ventured nearer than ever before. It was as though he recognized Jack not just as a kind presence but as someone worthy of connection and trust. Sitting cross-legged on the ground near Ace's enclosure became one of Jack's favorite positions. It brought him down to eye level with Ace, the perfect way to let this gentle creature know he wasn't above him in stature or authority but rather beside him. Jack began reading aloud from a book he'd taken along, stories filled with adventure or humor, his soothing voice weaving around them like a gentle breeze. To his surprise, when his gaze shifted back toward Ace mid-story, he discovered the dog had moved even closer than before. There was something magical about sharing narratives. They transformed into passages for healing not just for Jack's hardened heart but also for Ace's guarded soul. On occasions when unexpected noise filled the shelter, the sound of barking dogs or clattering dishes, Ace would tense instinctively at first. However, with Jack there offering comforting words and steady presence, those moments gradually became more manageable for him. Slowly but surely, evidence grew that old habits were beginning to shift. Pockets of anxiety relinquished their hold on him under Jack's unwavering kindness. With each visit adding another layer of connection between them, a genuine partnership rooted in trust, Jack began learning more about what made Ace tick beyond initial treatment goals set forth by trainers long before him. He recognized now how truly transformative this bonding process could be when compassion stood at its core instead of commands. One sunny afternoon marked another notable moment, after Jack shared a particularly funny anecdote involving a clumsy childhood mishap at summer camp, a slip into ice-cold water during a rowdy game. The unexpected happened during the punchline. For the first time since their companionship began, Jack witnessed something simply astonishing, a faint rumble echoing from deep within Ace's chest, a soft rumble akin to laughter. Though it wasn't full-blown barking or joyful playfulness like typical dogs might express when happy, this small moment felt rich with possibility, hope swirling enchantingly across uncharted territories both men had traversed alone until then. As weeks continued folding into months throughout this unique journey together, both journeying through unspeakable pain layered over time, they discovered sounds were only fragments that truly expressed joy when combined with softer expressions existing beneath canines' furred exteriors. Glances exchanged through radiant eyes or subtle movements harking back dormant spirits being reignited within weary bodies hanging on by tender threads of connection any more invisible but true nonetheless. Through unwavering consistency paired with gentle storytelling wrapped tightly around candor devoid of prescribed measures, christening simple presence yielded new understanding navigated cautiously toward unconditional outcomes found exclusively amongst wounded hearts combined through camaraderie amidst vulnerabilities discovering pathways awaiting new beginnings everywhere spirit soared ignited toward restored hope blossoming yet waiting resolutely free. As the weeks rolled on, the connection between Jack and Ace blossomed into something beautifully profound. Together, they forged a bond that transcended language, built instead on shared experiences and silent understandings. Each day, they met in the shelter's quiet corners, where the outside world faded away, leaving just the two of them to navigate their unique journeys of healing. Jack often reflected on the unspoken pain he sensed in Ace. He could see it in the dog's eyes, those deep brown orbs that seemed to tell stories of past traumas that no one would ever fully understand. It reminded him of himself, of the struggles he faced after coming home from military service and the haunting memories that lingered long after his uniform was hung up. There were days when he felt like he, too, had shut down, freezing in place from the weight of his own burdens. He recognized that same shadowy grief mirrored in Ace's stillness. During one particular visit, as Jack settled onto the blanket he had brought, he noticed Ace lying beside him with a noticeable tension in his muscles. Jack began to talk about his own journey, sharing moments not just of hardship but also of fleeting happiness that punctuated his path. He spoke of sunrises that filled him with hope, of small victories that reminded him to keep pushing forward, and of the laughter shared with friends who sometimes felt like family. In sharing these glimpses of his life, Jack hoped to reach into Ace's heart, showing him that there was beauty waiting to be discovered even amid pain. As Jack's stories flowed like gentle water, Ace began to relax, not only physically but emotionally as well. With each soft word uttered, Ace seemed to inch closer, as if responding to an invitation to share in Jack's experiences. Jack noticed how Ace's body would sway gently with the cadence of his voice, absorbing it like a sponge soaking up water. Those moments spoke volumes. They were testaments to the understanding that was forming between them, silent promises that they would walk this path together. One evening, while twilight enveloped the shelter, Jack decided to bring out his guitar, a weathered instrument that had accompanied him through years of solace and reflection. He had strummed its strings many times while wrestling with memories and emotions. As he began to play a soft melody filled with longing and hope, Ace perked up. The soothing notes floated through the air, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. To Jack's amazement, Ace lay there listening intently, his eyes half-closed yet filled with an unmistakable warmth. In that moment, it felt like they were both reconnecting with something deeper within themselves, something they had both lost for too long. The music acted as a bridge connecting their souls. It painted colors over the shadows they carried. Jack instinctively began to sing softly along with the melody, his voice trembling with raw emotion as he shared lyrics birthed from his own heartaches. Each verse resonated with truths they both felt yet could not articulate. A sense of companionship enveloped them like a protective layer against the world outside, where pain existed but now seemed a little lighter. As Ace listened closely, Jack caught sight of a flicker of something beneath Ace's usual stillness, a glimmer of recognition perhaps? It was as if Ace was starting to grasp that Jack understood him in ways no one else had before. In turn, Ace became a mirror reflecting back Jack's vulnerabilities, two beings tangled together in their narratives, bound by loss but also by the promise of companionship. Days turned into weeks as their trust deepened further still. Jack became attuned to Ace's needs, how he would rest quietly when content or shift uneasily when uncertain or afraid. Each small movement taught him more about Ace's past and present struggles, unraveling pieces of a puzzle they had both been trying to solve without any pieces provided. One bright afternoon, while they sat under a large tree outside the shelter enjoying warm sun rays brushing their faces, Ace suddenly shifted closer again. He rested his head gently against Jack's leg, a gesture so simple yet filled with immense significance. In that vulnerable moment, it was clear, Ace had begun to understand that Jack was his safe haven, a source of comfort amidst the chaos he had endured. Jack's heart swelled as he gently reached down and stroked Ace's fur, feeling the warmth radiate between them like electricity igniting hope anew. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized how far they had come together. Even without verbal communication, their connections needed no words to flourish. This gradual intertwining of their lives illuminated something beautiful, how two beings could find solace in one another amid pain and healing. They weren't merely teacher and student but comrades, both sharing burdens and witness to each other's stories as layers peeled away slowly over time. With every meeting spent basking in shared silence or exchanging tales laced through song, they continued nurturing this bond woven delicately from empathy and understanding. It became evident, sometimes healing requires nothing more than simply being present for one another, hearts unfolding like blossoms beneath warm sunlight after a long winter. Together they forged ahead into uncharted territory, two souls intertwined by unspoken vows of healing, discovering pathways toward brighter horizons waiting on the other side. On day 9 of his visits, Jack arrived at the shelter with a sense of anticipation tinged with a hint of anxiety. Each day had brought subtle growth in his relationship with Ace, but today felt different. As he walked toward the familiar enclosure, the warmth of the morning sun wrapped around him, casting playful shadows that danced on the ground. He felt a profound connection brewing between them, a force that had been steadily building over time. Yet, he sensed that something important was still waiting to be revealed. Jack settled onto the blanket, as he had done many times before. Ace lay there, quiet and still, his expressive eyes shimmering with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Today, however, Jack noticed something new, an intensity in Ace's gaze that held unspoken questions, a yearning for something deeper. It was more than just companionship, it felt like a longing for understanding. "Hey, buddy," Jack said softly, feeling his heart swell as he spoke. "I've been thinking a lot about what we both carry." He took a deep breath, summoning memories and feelings he had kept tucked away for far too long. It was time to share more than stories of bravery and laughter, it was time to reveal the scars he bore and earn his trust through vulnerability. As Jack began sharing tales from his time in service, he felt the words slip from his lips with raw honesty. He spoke of moments filled with fear, the uncertainty when facing challenges that could change everything in an instant. He talked about camaraderie forged in the heat of battle, the pain of loss when friends didn't return home, and how those experiences left haunting echoes in his heart. He described nights spent staring at the ceiling, haunted by memories that refused to fade, just like Ace's own struggles that left him frozen in fear. As Jack opened up, he noticed Ace's demeanor shift, his ears perked up slightly, and his breathing deepened. The vulnerability in Jack's voice seemed to resonate within Ace's soul as if they were two halves of a whole, struggling to understand their place in a world filled with darkness and uncertainty. Suddenly, Ace shifted closer, his body language spoke volumes. He leaned in toward Jack's leg, resting his head gently against it in a show of trust that struck Jack profoundly. In that moment, Jack realized they shared a bond deeper than words could convey, both had experienced pain that felt insurmountable. The realization washed over Jack like a wave. Ace wasn't merely waiting for companionship, he was waiting for recognition of their shared wounds. Both were healing from past traumas that had left scars on their hearts, unspoken yet painfully real. It dawned on Jack that Ace's shutdowns mirrored his own bouts of emotional retreat, both were instinctively protecting themselves from hurt. Tears glistened in Jack's eyes as he absorbed this revelation. "You and I are more alike than I ever knew," he whispered softly. His heart swelled with empathy. He understood now what Ace needed most, not just someone to sit with him but someone who truly understood the weight of their collective grief. Feeling emboldened by this fresh insight, Jack began to delve even deeper into his thoughts and feelings, unraveling burdens while inviting Ace to join him on this journey of healing together. He spoke of healing being a process rather than an end destination, a winding road filled with unexpected obstacles but also moments of pure beauty. The depth of their connection grew stronger as layers peeled away from both of their hearts. Ace continued to remain close to Jack, allowing himself to lean into this newfound understanding, accepting comfort and solace from someone who wholeheartedly recognized his struggles. Together they sat beneath the tree as sunlight filtered through leaves overhead, two unique beings sharing silence while paving a way toward healing intertwined with vulnerability. The pivotal moment unfolded like a delicate flower blooming after winter's harsh grip. Jack understood Ace was not only seeking companionship, he was also desperate for someone to pierce through the fog of isolation that surrounded them both. They were embarking on a journey together toward uncharted territory, a path towards emotional freedom where open hearts would lay bare truths demanding acknowledgement. With each moment spent together thereafter, heavy burdens became lighter, and silent communication transformed into genuine companionship overflowing with understanding. There was no need for predetermined plans or structured training sessions. Jack discovered that simply being there for Ace allowed their bond to flourish into something profound, an unbreakable connection tying their souls ever closer. As day 9 ended and dusk rolled in, painting the sky in soft hues of lavender and gold, Jack reflected on how much had changed since he'd first walked through those shelter doors. Today had been monumental, not just for Ace but for himself as well. Healing had begun taking root within both of them as they stepped toward brighter horizons awaiting them. In one another's presence lay hope wrapped delicately within unspoken vows pledged through shared struggles. They found strength while navigating life's unpredictable twists together. Their journey wasn't just about rescuing each other from darkness, it blossomed into something beautiful where understanding flourished amid scars healed slowly but surely by love blossoming anew between two fractured hearts. As the days flowed into a steady rhythm of companionship, Jack and Ace began to experience a transformative journey of mutual healing. The bond they shared grew stronger, fueled by understanding that transcended mere words. Each visit unfolded like a gentle awakening, as both the veteran and the dog found comfort in one another's presence, forming a powerful connection rooted in empathy. Jack noticed how Ace started responding to his gestures with increasing confidence. Where once Ace had withdrawn into silence and stillness, now he would approach Jack with cautious curiosity, nudging him with his nose or resting a paw on his leg. These small yet significant actions spoke volumes. It was as if Ace was beginning to trust Jack enough to let him in, allowing him to glimpse the depths of his hidden struggles. One afternoon, after weeks of connection building, Jack decided to introduce an activity that could further deepen their bond. He arrived at the shelter carrying a simple canvas and colorful paints. The idea was simple: they would create a piece of art together that expressed their individual journeys. Jack remembered how art had been a therapeutic outlet for him during difficult times, and he hoped it would serve as a form of expression that Ace could embrace too. He set out the materials on the blanket beside him, his heart pounding with excitement as he spoke to Ace about their project. "Let's paint together today," he said cheerfully, showing no hint of expectation. "We can capture our stories on this canvas." Jack gently squeezed paint onto the canvas, creating swirls of color that reflected the emotions he had been feeling: blues for sorrow, yellows for hope, and greens for renewal. Ace watched with keen interest, his eyes following every stroke. Jack felt encouraged by Ace's attention. It was evident he was intrigued by this new experience. After a few moments, Jack dipped his fingers into the paint and let loose small splashes on the edge of the canvas, inviting Ace to join in. He placed some paint on the ground and encouraged Ace to step into it with unwavering patience. With curious hesitation, Ace moved forward, allowing his paw to dip into the vibrant colors. As he stepped onto the canvas with colorful footprints, Jack felt as though they were both embarking on a journey of self-discovery. Each mark made by Ace represented not just a playful dab but an embodiment of emotional release. Together they created something unique. Each paw print captured their shared story of resilience. As they painted side by side, a man and a dog, words faded into background noise. Instead, it became about feeling. It transformed into an unspoken conversation filled with healing hues taking shape upon the canvas, an expression intertwined with love and understanding. With every swipe of paint across the canvas, they were shedding pieces of their pasts that weighed heavily on their hearts. The experience moved Jack deeply. Here he was, crafting art not just for himself but also for Ace, a visual representation of their struggles, triumphs, and journey toward freedom from hurt. Each color held significance, a palette reflecting stories untold. In those moments spent creating together under the warm sunshine filtering through the trees overhead, something beautiful transpired. They were openly sharing their vulnerabilities in an act of artistic freedom. The connection they forged grew richer as they explored new dimensions beyond spoken language. It deepened their understanding of each other in ways neither could have imagined. As weeks turned into months filled with more painting sessions along with storytelling, Ace blossomed even further. His transformation became apparent not only in how he interacted with Jack but also in his newfound energy. He began greeting Jack at the gate with excited wags of his tail, while here was once intense trepidation shadowed by uncertainty emerged joy sparkling across expressive eyes reflecting shared triumphs over adversity. The dog who once shut down completely now exuded warmth, a radiant beam lighting the way forward together for both of them as each session unraveled more layers obscured by past traumas previously entwined within fear clawing beneath surface appearances meticulously guarded against pain. Through this cooperative synergy anchored patiently by mutual understanding, a space created devoid of pressure that allowed them both room to explore their emotional landscapes while uncovering pathways toward healing, hand in paw moving deliberately toward brighter horizons ahead, blossoming still full possibility gathered amidst fleeting sparks unfolding within, trust reclaimed growing deeper every day. Time softens edges that once felt sharp and burdensome, algorithms dissolving, allowing honesty to bloom freely, removing barriers stubbornly entrenched within hearts spread wide open, sharing space woven from melodic harmonies reminding them it is okay to be fragile yet vulnerable, assembled anew without masks worn long past, confronted. Creativity pushed beside healing, no longer tethered by fear, just encouragement abounding, soft pulsations carrying their souls together toward freedom reminiscent of Sunshine spilling warmly across fields stretching endlessly, sprawling infinite skies, vast uncharted learning surrender space furnished jointly filled with joyous expression, enriching lives carried onward, mutually empowered, giving wings, rise above horizons glimmering, freed finally. So each visit marked progress, paintbrushes exchanged amidst laughter unfurling further down roads paved toward restored connections, transporting miraculous journeys etched vibrantly alongside torn edges, fortifying friendships found between them, validating truths only silence could articulate, bridging divides, slowly revealing deeper valleys awaiting exploration, gladly shared. As the seasons changed, so did Jack and Ace. With each passing day, the transformation in both characters became increasingly evident. Jack had entered the shelter feeling lost himself, burdened by memories and a sense of purpose that had long since faded. Yet through his daily visits with Ace, he found himself awakening to new possibilities, his heart swelling with hope as he witnessed the gradual progress of the dog he had grown so fond of. Ace was no longer the timid, frightened canine who had first arrived at the shelter. The journey they had taken together was one of remarkable change. Where once there was silence and stillness, now there were playful barks and gentle nudges. Ace began to greet Jack at the gate with enthusiasm, tail wagging wildly, no longer hiding away in fear but stepping forward to embrace the warmth of companionship. The trust they had built over time was palpable, it radiated from every interaction. Jack observed how Ace would now follow his lead when exploring new activities, be it painting or simply taking a stroll around the shelter's yard. No longer isolated in his own world, Ace showed curiosity about everything around him. He seemed eager to engage with both Jack and his environment. One sunny afternoon, while they sat outside under a sprawling oak tree, Jack marveled at how far Ace had come. The dog rested his head comfortably on Jack's lap, sighing contentedly as if affirming their shared bond. In that moment of tranquility, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose washing over him, a realization that their connection was not merely about companionship but also about healing each other's wounds. Jack began to see himself reflected in Ace's journey. As Ace found joy and confidence again, so too did Jack rediscover passion and meaning in life. He remembered how art had helped him express emotions long locked away, how painting side by side with Ace had shifted something within him as well. Each brushstroke was not just a mark on canvas but a release of pain held tightly for years. Inspired by this newfound understanding, Jack decided to organize an art showcase at the shelter, a small event where they could display their collaborative pieces alongside other works created by volunteers and shelter staff. It would be an opportunity not only to celebrate creativity but also to raise awareness about rescue animals like Ace who were often overlooked. In preparation for the showcase, Jack poured himself into planning every detail, from gathering supplies to inviting local community members to attend. He felt invigorated by this project. It became a mission that allowed him to share their story, the story of two wounded souls finding healing through each other's presence. As the day of the event approached, excitement buzzed in the air like electric currents connecting everyone involved. On the day itself, families gathered with children laughing and playing while others admired the art displayed throughout the shelter walls adorned with colorful pieces telling tales of resilience. When it came time for Jack and Ace to present their artwork together, a large canvas filled with vibrant colors reflecting their emotional journey, Jack stood before an audience filled with warmth and support. He spoke candidly about how this journey had transformed not only Ace but also himself. Each brushstroke represents our shared experience, he explained, looking down at Ace nestled beside him. What began as uncertainty grew into something beautiful through mutual understanding. His voice trembled slightly as he shared their story, a testament to trust built over time amidst vulnerability. Ace lifted his head at just that moment as if sensing the weighty significance behind those words. It felt like a silent acknowledgement passed between them, their bond unbreakable now forged through shared experiences intertwining hearts healing together collaboratively. As applause erupted across attendees celebrating this triumph alongside them enveloped in admiration, they understood what lay beneath surface appearances. Both man and dog had traveled difficult paths riddled with pain yet emerged resiliently transformed anew, restoring hope collectively while shining bright light illuminating pathways toward brighter tomorrows ahead. The event marked a turning point for both, for Ace, the shy rescue canine who struggled amid darkness, and for Jack, the veteran finding renewed purpose through connection forged anew leading toward healing blossoming wherever love breathed life back into weary souls. With each joyful bark from Ace mingling harmoniously among laughter echoing softly alongside heartfelt conversations filling spaces previously defined solely by isolation, It became clear that transformation sparkled vibrantly in every corner, illuminated brightly, reflecting resilience, overcoming shadows once cast deep within hearts yearning desperately for connection, found along uncharted journeys traversed together, hand in paw, making memories anew. Together they ventured forth into uncharted territories, rich, brimming, full possibility, gathering strength, arm in arm, embracing hope, unfurling horizons, shining brightly ahead, where friendship flourished beautifully amidst challenges faced, boldly leaving behind fears once held tightly forgotten, replaced instead blossoming optimism, nurtured gently, always onward, learning, growing, seeking freedom, shared joyfully. As Jack and Ace settled into a new routine filled with mutual support, both found themselves reflecting on the nature of healing and the profound connections that had formed between them. They shared countless moments together, developing an understanding of each other that went beyond words. It was layered with unspoken truths and mutual respect cultivated through vulnerability. For Jack, the journey had been transformative in ways he never anticipated. He arrived at the shelter initially needing direction himself, seeking solace from the echoes of his past that haunted him after his military service. In exploring Ace's struggles, he unintentionally embarked on a path of self-discovery, unveiling layers of grief he had buried deep beneath unprocessed emotions. Each visit brought glimmers of hope, reminding him that healing is not a linear process but rather a winding road filled with twists and turns. Ace's challenges mirrored Jack's own scars. They were intertwined in their journeys, from feeling isolated to grappling with their histories. As Jack shared stories of his service, moments filled with both pride and deep pain, Ace listened intently, acknowledging each sentiment without judgment. The connection they forged was more than a mere friendship. It was a continual cycle of empathy in which each learned from the other's perseverance, cultivating strength in those fleeting instants. On one particularly calm evening, as they sat outside under the starlit sky, Jack noticed how calm Ace had become, curled up beside him with an air of contentment illuminating his features. It struck him then just how far they had come together. It hadn't been about training or commands but about simply holding space for one another, a powerful reminder that presence often speaks louder than words. Jack turned to Ace and spoke softly into the cool night air. "You know, I've realized something important throughout our time together. Healing can start in silence, when we allow ourselves to just be." His heart swelled as he looked into Ace's trusting eyes, grateful for the grace they offered each other daily. He understood now that sometimes understanding comes from being there, truly present, and creating a safe environment where vulnerability could flourish without fear. In this shared stillness, both men, although speaking in different languages entirely, had found mutual refuge among emotional storms once too heavy to bear alone. They learned it was okay to grieve together, to laugh when joy lit up their hearts unexpectedly like fireflies fluttering gently against twilight skies, illuminating dark pathways, gradually giving way to brighter horizons. As weeks unfolded into months, moments spent in quiet companionship built bridges over previously insurmountable divides within themselves. Jack's newfound purpose thrived beyond expectations, using art not only as a medium for expression but as partaking in a collaborative healing journey. To share these experiences deeply connected them through strokes on canvas mirroring their moving tales, the colors shifting alongside their shifting dynamics of trust until all layers melded into beautiful manifestations of hope, reflecting collective resilience warmed by tenderness yet grounded firmly in reality. Ace discovered confidence blossomed like spring flowers breaking through winter's frost as he explored boundaries once daunting, now merely invitations, awaiting joyous encounters unprecedented before friendship emerged as transformation unfurled before them. Each playful bark born from newfound enjoyment echoed rhythms set forth inviting intimacy silenced long before. Through activities where creativity intertwined seamlessly alongside acceptance, allowing them pathways unraveled leading elsewhere than anticipated, it became clear that relationships transcend initial encounters, revealing deeper elements residing patiently waiting beneath surface appearances masked forever by sorrow, extinguished slowly yet surely, yielding life anew. Shared laughter rang loud amid recovery, creating echoes, resurrecting light seemingly forgotten, reminding everyone involved, including those present during artwork displays, that life's palette possesses unyielding vibrancy despite inevitable shadows cast, reminiscing lost times, courageously faced royal hues still alive, thriving, awaiting discovery anew. They had become companions steeped not just in triumphs but struggles equally worthy, transforming narratives written collaboratively, destined, sparkling, shimmering brightly, weaving legends longer than either could have imagined, individually signifying strength forged collectively, weaving roots entwined, faithfully planted, decades blooming highly beneath tinges expressed, moving forward. As they continued their journey together, moving into unexplored territories imbued with potential, opening wide to embracing unexplored territories, It remained essential, always giving themselves permission, embrace imperfections, learning navigate unexpected waves, surging toward growth, felt stimulatingly warm, invigorating, thereby charting wondrous routes forward, sustaining steadily as evolving energies fused, relentlessly gliding, serenely soaring ever higher wherever aspirations ignite, pulsing. Confirmed, always undying, inked upon, forever expanding horizons.